Subway has teamed up with Live Nation to bring you great food and great music for a great value. Right now, buy a Subway $5 footlong and get a Live Nation concert ticket for $5 to participating Live Nation shows like Nickelback, The Fray, and Crew Fest 2. Ticket price does not include fees. See store for details. Subway. Eat fresh. Eat fresh. The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
this is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
It might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't care.
The BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the BS Report. Bill Hader not on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. He's in studio.
I'm right here.
Because, well, he's in town because you're promoting a new movie.
Yeah, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Maybe not for everybody of this audience, but maybe if people have kids.
You know what? If you've got kids, it's great. It's really good in 3D. I'm being 100% serious that they took us to a screening at Sony in 3D. And yeah, it's amazing. And it's legitimately funny. That's the other thing. They let the guys, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the two guys who did the movie, they let them have like their sensibilities and put it in the movie. So it has like, it is one of those movies I think kids will like on one level, and when they get older, they'll go, oh. It's like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, you know?
I'm excited for it. I love the title.
Yeah.
I've heard all good things.
It's really good.
I haven't really been crazy about the kids' movies that have been coming out lately.
Yeah. Pixar kind of just owns the market.
WALL-E was really well done. I was impressed. It's a real movie. Like, it was really something. It was memorable.
Yeah.
My daughter was like almost 4 when we saw it, and she was just, it was like too much for her. There was like no dialogue.
Yeah.
It was like serious.
Up was good.
I haven't seen Up.
I liked Up a lot. But this is like, this is like different. The good way, it's a good way different than those where it is just like incredible, like just insane energy and those guys. Andy Samberg's in it. Mr. T's in it. You know what I mean? Bruce Campbell's in it.
He's Mr. T's lead billing, obviously.
Yeah, he's over everybody.
Yeah.
And James Caan's in it. He plays my dad. I got to have like a scene where I actually got to do over the phone line with James Caan. We're getting an argument. And that was cool. Like Anna Faris, who's amazing. And
what's your character?
This guy, Flint Lockwood, he's like a scientist and makes this machine that rains food over this town.
So you're the fake lead?
I'm the lead.
Is it the real lead or the fake lead?
I'm the lead. I guess, I don't know, what's the fake lead? What does that mean?
Well, it's you're voicing...
Yeah. I'm voicing the main guy, which
you're in charge of the lead character.
Yeah.
So that makes you the lead.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it was one of the...
Breaking it in?
Yeah.
How many roles do you have, man?
I'm actually at multiple... Yeah, that's the thing that they're asking. Like, I actually play 2 different characters in the movie, and that's the thing where it's like, who's the second character I play? I play 2 different guys.
And how did Adventureland do?
Adventureland, for my money, if it was 1997, Adventureland would have done great. Because people, I think, give it, like, movies more lead way. They go, it, like, tripled its budget, or doubled its budget within 2 weeks. It's great. You know what I mean? They kind of go, hey, that's good. We made some money on this. Awesome. You know? Now it's like, everybody's wanting, like, the kind of the Juno, Little Miss Sunshine. We spend no money on a movie, and it makes $100 million. So, if, like, the movie doesn't make $40 million opening weekend, plus, I think, people were like, oh, Kristen Stewart's in it. The Twilight fans are going to go see it, all this stuff. But that movie is more of a, Greg Mottola comes out of that. Day Tripper's his first movie, which is great. He comes out of that kind of tradition of, like low budget movies. And he said after Superbad, he's like, I want to do like a movie and not spend a lot of money, but it's like a personal movie and like just do that. And critics loved it, and I thought, for my money, it did great. I've had people come up to me on the street and talk about it, so for me, it did great. But it is weird when I read something and go, oh, when Adventureland flopped, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How did that flop? Like, people said Drag Me to Hell flopped, the Sam Raimi movie. And I was like, well, I saw that movie twice in the theater, and it was packed the whole time, and it seemed to me like everybody was talking about it.
I saw it was sold out.
You know, I saw that twice and like 2 weeks apart, and both times it was sold out. So I was like,
your movie's gonna, when it starts making the cable run, that's when it's really gonna take off, I think.
Yeah, it's number one on iTunes,
culty.
whatever that means. But
it's on my Netflix queue right now, and I didn't get it when I ordered it because I wanted to see it before you came here, and it was like backlogged. How dare they backlog in Adventureland?
Well, that's the fun thing with Adventureland 2 is the thing that it's like, you know, someone said, you know, it's like a teen movie for adults. It's that kind of movie where like people will come up to me and just go, man, that, guys, our age, like, oh man, that hit me on such a personal level for that movie. I've been there, you know, and it's kind of more of a melancholy feel, but I really love it. I'm really proud of it.
You know, like you said, like the Juno, Little Miss Sunshine, I guess you could throw Sideways in there. Happens like once every 2 years. It's not like it's something that's, if that's your goal, that's a pretty ambitious goal. That's like saying, I'm going to play professional basketball and I'll win 5 MVPs.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, no one, like, they kind of don't. I watched this interview with, I saw an interview once with Steven Soderbergh where he talked about when he was doing, like, Sex, Lies, and Video, like the late 80s, when he was doing movies, you know, and the Coen brothers had a similar thing, you know, was that you had a chance to kind of fail a couple of times. You know what I mean? And now it doesn't seem like you're really allowed to. It's like you give like the first shot out when you're doing independent movies, and it's like, well, didn't work out. Bye.
But like Nick and Nora's Playlist, I really like that movie, and that didn't do well either.
No, those guys who did that movie did a great movie called Raising Victor Vargas that you should totally see.
I didn't realize until we had dinner last night that what a gigantic Klaus Kinski fan you are.
Oh yeah, Klaus Kinski's amazing. My best fiend. I can watch that movie any time. Just like the opening of it. Yeah, Roman Polanski too. Roman Polanski. I'm telling you, everybody should read Roman by Polanski.
Yeah, could you talk about his autobiography? Because I was dying.
Oh, so like his autobiography, I'm like a huge fan of his movies.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I want to get this so I can, you know, read about him. And the whole autobiography is just about him, like, hooking up with beautiful women.
With his actresses.
Yeah, so it's like, knife in the water, the main actress, we made love, and then she got fat. Chapter 3. And I'm like, that's it? That's all you got to say about repulsion. Catherine Deneuve, she would not make love to me, so we listened to jazz music, and then she made love to me. Rosemary's Baby. And I'm like, what? Like, that's all you have to say?
Yeah, he's, we both seen the documentary.
Yeah, Wanted and Desired. That was great.
It's fascinating.
Totally fascinating. And he's such an interesting guy because he really does strike me as somebody that, like, he just happened. I'm sure it's the same thing in sports too, where it's like they just happen to be a phenomenal filmmaker. Yeah. Like, that's something that is almost like an unconscious level. Like, you rarely see. And the new Repulsion DVD, it does have like a thing of him directing, which was really fascinating for me to see as a fan, kind of like, oh, okay, so he does think about this stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
He's not like a savant.
He's not just like a guy who's like, just put the camera there and we'll see, you know. He actually is thinking about it. You know, I want to make love to makeup woman. When I come back, the shot better be ready. Okay, bye. Let's put on some jazz.
I knew it was only a matter of time before a Polanski impression was on the BS report.
Yeah, we couldn't. That's one of those hard ones to do on the show.
Yeah, it's hard to work him in.
Yeah, it's hard to work any of the guys I enjoy doing just with my friends. Me and John Mulaney always try to go, how can we get Polanski into this?
Well, you worked Buffalo Bill in that time.
Yeah, we did.
James Gumb.
Yeah. We took your suggestion. We and Seth Meyers wrote a Jamie Gumb talk show. And it kind of tanked at the table.
Oh,
it tanked, but I think that was mostly. I'm gonna take the hit for that. I think it was mostly our writing. It was our last show. It was a Will Ferrell show. I think we were all tired, and I was like, but we were sat in a room, and Seth was like, maybe Bill Simmons is right. Maybe we should try a Jamie Gumb talk show. Let's take a crack at that. You know?
Oh man.
So yeah, we wrote it. Yeah, and you know what? It's probably a testament that wasn't good because I can't even remember any of the bits in it. I think we just wrote it. But yeah, no, that was like a great thing when we did it on the Bad Guys, Good Guys talk show.
I was thinking about another sketch to suggest I can bomb at the writer's table. Say Big is on all the time, and my daughter now likes Big.
Yeah.
I've written about it. I mean, I keep coming back to the same well, but every time you watch it, you pick up more and more things. I think it would be kind of cool, like some sort of awkward Maury Povich type show. Set now, we're grown-up big guy with the 53-year-old lady who. That's all I have. That's the entire idea. But something where he's grown up and he's not. She's really ready to rekindle it, and he's like, geez, you're 53.
That's funny.
I don't know.
I like that. I know Simon Rich and John Mulaney wrote a show one time that was like a dad-son switch show, but then the son ends up sleeping with his mom because he's in his dad's body. and he's like really screwed up by it, and so they switch it back like, what did you learn? And he's just like totally comatose because he had sex with his mom. Oh man, that made me laugh so hard.
When does SNL start? It's like the last Saturday of the month? Next Thursday,
the 17th is our first Thursday night show, and then we have another Thursday night show, and then, the season premieres at 26 with Megan Fox and U2.
See, I read Tom Shales' piece in the Washington Post.
Yeah, I read that too.
What are they going to do this year? And I feel like there's a lot of stuff going on. I don't think you're going to run out of things.
You never it's always a weird week by week thing, you know, you kind of show up, and I mean, it's good as a cast member to be kind of looking for stuff like the Maury Povich thing or whatever, you know, you kind of like think of like, oh, that could be funny. But yeah, I mean, you know,
it just
kind
seems
of a
like
day, like week of, you just go, oh yeah, this happened.
It seems like we're in a nice streak of people screwing up. Mm-hmm. Like the guy this week who was talking the assemblyman or whatever he was, talking about his sexual conquest with the open mic. She likes to be spanked. The whole thing's being captured.
They did that on 30 Rock, I remember, or something like that, where Alec Baldwin's mic was on. That was funny.
Well, this really happened.
Yeah, I know. That's insane.
It's also like, what happens to people when they run for office and it just becomes a sexual freefall for them? Why doesn't this happen with other jobs? Or maybe it does, and I just
no one cares enough. Or maybe there's just such weird pressure when you get in that arena where you're like, okay, don't have an affair, don't have an affair, no.
Damn it, why did I do that?
Don't have an affair. It's like, don't think about it, man. Just enjoy your life. You're like, all right, don't have an affair, don't have an affair.
But you think it's like the DNA of the politicians that the need to run for office is the same need to just bang the Xerox lady? Like, it's some certain same chromosome?
Yeah, it's weird. They immediately become Scarface.
I don't get it. Like, I'd be at my book tour, I'd be like, yeah, going to New York tonight.
Yeah. You don't hear about, like, Stephen King, like, laying waste to, you know, like, I'm out of the house now. You know, like just going out on his book tour with a bunch of horror fans.
Who wants to flip through a few of my pages?
Yeah,
that would be creepy. So you have Megan Fox.
Yeah,
and U2.
Yeah, U2, Megan Fox.
I remember the last time they were on. It was actually like a very memorable, cool performance. Like, they kind of took over the stage.
Yeah, I heard that they did.
You weren't there yet.
I wasn't there yet, but they did the thing that Arcade Fire and Kanye West and Green Day did, which is they played after the show was done.
Oh, they kept going.
They kept going, which was really cool. Arcade Fire did that, and I really like that band, so we flipped out.
Yeah, you think like you have this audience of people. Why wouldn't you want to keep going?
Yeah, it kind of just depends on. I don't know if it's pre-planned or it's spur of the moment. Like, people are flipping out. You guys are out there. Do you have 2 more songs you could play? And it is kind of cool just to have like your own little personal concert that no one else will see.
It would be funny to pitch bits to Bono.
He was in a digital short, the one we did with Brian Williams. He came in and did like a little bit. Like, I came in and they're shooting it, and I had to ask Yorma Taccone a question, and I go, hey, oh my God, that's Bono. Like, he just was in 30 Rock, and I go, oh, would he come up and do a little thing where he talks to Brian Williams like he's like the voice in his head or something? It was really funny.
I like when people like Bono and Cruz, who are just over the top at all times. Mm-hmm. They then try to transfer that energy towards comedy. Mm-hmm. Cruise the same way. It's so intense. It's like, yes, it'll be funny.
Yeah.
I will delight my crowd.
Yeah. He was fun on Tropic Thunder. He was like, the good thing about that was that he had so much prosthetics on, and he was, he carried himself such a different way, that you really did throughout the day kind of forget that you were hanging out with Tom Cruise. You know what I mean? You knew it, but you kind of fully didn't know it. You know what I mean?
That's a great segue.
Yeah. And then he'd come up to you and say, and then he'd leave at the end of the day, and he'd be as Tom Cruise, and I would get totally starstruck.
He'd leave in his super helicopter.
Yeah, he's like, "See you, Bill."
So, the reason we're having you on, other than to promote your movie, and we like having you on anytime you're in town, we're doing the SG Awards.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out different things for the decade. Now, we did TV. People were able to vote on it. We're moving over to comedies.
Yeah.
Specifically movie and TV comedies. You have a lot of thoughts. You've actually even been in one or two of these comedies, which I'm not going to disqualify your opinion because of that.
Oh, okay.
I think, even though you're in Superbad, I don't think you're the kind of guy who would say Superbad was number one, dude, but secretly just pushing the movie you're in.
Yeah.
You're a student of comedy.
Yes.
I am an owner of comedy DVDs. I think that qualifies me. So I jotted down a list, and I'm sure I'm going to miss something. But these, to me, seem like the 7 most memorable movie comedies of the decade. In no particular order.
Okay.
Sideways.
Okay.
Anchorman.
Okay.
Superbad. Wedding Crashers. Old School, which we'll talk about Old School. Borat. 40-Year-Old Virgin. What am I missing? What should be?
Those are pretty. Those are pretty the big ones of this decade. I personally like the movies that I saw this decade that made me laugh are kind of smaller ones that people that would be missing off that list that people weren't talking about.
Because the goal is like it should be something. The question isn't what was your favorite comedy of the decade. The question is, when we look back at this decade, what will be the first comedy that pops up?
Oh, when we look back
in
at
your
this,
head.
The
defining comedy of the decade.
It's pretty. I mean, the Apatow movies people talk about a lot, like just in general. It's kind of like John Hughes movies were in the 80s. It's just like people talk about them, they seem like it. But again,
I kind of agree on that. I think when people remember this decade,
they're
probably going to think of Apatow and his whole crew before maybe Will Ferrell.
But Will Ferrell's in that. I mean, Anchorman technically is an Apatow movie. It is an Apatow movie. He produced it. I think he commissioned, and same as Step Brothers and Talladega Nights. And
so we'll go off the track a little bit. So your personal favorites.
For me personally, the movies that are not on that list that I loved. One is a horror comedy. I love Shaun of the Dead. I thought that was great. I thought that was such a really smart, funny movie where it's like they kept the horror elements to it. It wasn't like Scary Movie or something where it was like the horror element was silly. You know what I mean? It was like, no, what would you actually do if a zombie invasion happened? You know what I mean? And your girlfriend was breaking up with you. What would you actually do? And I thought that movie's brilliant.
But that's a nice mix for you because you like horror and you like comedy.
Yeah, but I know people who aren't big horror fans who love that movie. They get wrapped, like Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are so funny and charming that you kind of just get wrapped up in it.
You just did a movie with them.
Yeah, Paul, which is great.
When you mentioned that in the last podcast, you kind of like broke the story. And I was thinking about my next question or something. It was like the only time I just glossed over it. I just like, oh, cool. So, blah, blah, blah. And then I was getting emails like, you moron. Hater just spilled some news in your podcast. You missed it.
Oh, I think I read that on Chud or something.
Yeah, people are very upset with me. Apparently, I failed as a host. I'd like to apologize to America for not being like, what? You're doing Paul? They're just going crazy.
Well,
but I guess it's a big deal.
Yeah, that movie's a very big deal. I mean, Greg Mottola, the guy who directed, Superbad and Adventureland, he directed it. Me, Kristen Wiig, Nick, Simon, Jason Bateman, Sigourney Weaver, Joe Truglio, Jane Lynch.
So you filmed that in June, July?
June, July, and August, yeah.
Where'd you film it?
In Santa Fe, in and around New Mexico, mostly in and around Santa Fe.
Really?
Yeah, it was cool. It was really nice. And it was such a laid-back thing. Everybody, it was like going to camp. It really was. It was just like an experience. Like every day you went to work was a blast, and we were just, those guys have such an infectious kind of energy about them.
Wasn't that where our Midnight Run helicopter scene was filmed?
Probably. Or where he shoots out the
helicopter.
That might have been. I don't know. That's kind of by water. I don't know. That'd be interesting. You got to think, like, especially this stuff in the desert, that car chase. Yeah, kind of.
It was either New Mexico
where
or
he
Texas.
gets kind of, yeah.
We talked about it last night. Midnight Run is one of those movies that if somebody brings up, I turn into like a Hare Krishna.
Oh, yeah, that movie's amazing. We were talking about that with the South Park guys, how that movie is kind of like a perfect script. Like every moment of it.
Everything is.
It just structurally, like up until the very last line of that movie, still is revealing stuff about his character, or like it just works, you know.
You have
like
guys who have like 4 scenes in it, who every scene they're in, they kill it.
Yeah.
Which it's really hard to pull off in a comedy with like 15 characters, you know?
Yeah. And Philip Baker Hall's in it as a character named Sidney. And that character is in Paul Thomas Anderson's, not that character, but he plays a guy named Sidney in Paul Thomas Anderson's first movie, Hard 8. And he also played Floyd Gandolfi, the guy who wanted to convert everything to video. I like the simple things in life. Lollipops, butter in my ass. That guy's an awesome actor. I get excited every time I see him. Go watch Secret Honor, where he plays Nixon, Robert Altman movie. Oh. It's amazing. He's phenomenal.
He's one of those guys who's so talented that when you see him on, like, you're flipping channels and he's like, oh, he's on Law and Order SVU. It's kind of disappointing.
I mean, him on Seinfeld. Like,
oh, yeah,
how
who was he on Seinfeld?
He's the library cop.
That's right.
I call them criminals. Like, he's amazing. That guy, Philip Baker Hall's amazing.
Where do you stand on the Curb Your Enthusiasm, bringing back everybody on Seinfeld for the fake reunion for 5 episodes?
I don't know.
I'm excited about it, but I hope it doesn't bomb.
I don't know. Yeah, it's
risky.
It is. It is. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of a sucker for stuff like that. I get excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're all in the same room.
Yeah,
like,
that's why I get really excited. I saw the picture. I was like, oh,
they're all there.
Yeah.
There's
been some weird Seinfeld backlash lately, which I don't.
Really?
It started with the B movie. Yeah, he was promoting it, and then it was like, hey, all right, Jerry, go away. And it's like, what? It's created the best sitcom of all time.
He's always going to be on top, I think.
I hope so.
That guy, comedian, I love that movie. I thought that was great.
I did too.
Yeah. I was going to...
we're talking about Midnight Run, New Mexico. What are we talking about your movie?
Another movie that I liked that no one talks about is, because I mentioned Joe Truglio, another one of my favorite comedies of the decade is Wet Hot American Summer. Did you see that?
Yes.
I love that movie. You not into it?
I'm torn. Here's my issue. Mm-hmm. This would be tough because you mingle in this crowd. I don't consider you part of this crowd, but there is the too cool for school comedy type that little bit snooty, just a tiny bit snooty.
I don't think it comes across. You're right, but I don't think that comes across in that movie.
It doesn't. Mm-hmm. But when I worked for Kimmel's show, running in seeing those people all the time.
Yeah, it just it's
like stink a pot.
It's a personal thing.
And it's like it made me not want to root for anything they were involved with.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
It's a personal thing.
I thought it was very clever, but at the same time, it's like, you know, they're very dismissive of anyone who's kind of made it or.
All those guys have gone on to. I don't think. I mean, I know like David Wayne and Joe, especially, and Paul Rudd. All those guys are insanely. They're not that way at all. They're like the nicest guys ever. Really are like almost you can't believe how nice they are. And I love that movie. I saw that's Bradley Cooper's first movie, Hangover. Like his first movie is Wet American Summer. He has that sex scene with Michael Ian Black.
Yeah, well, you know you guys had him as host.
Yeah,
but it was before he became guy on cover Us Weekly dating Renee Zellweger.
Right.
At the same time, it was like you kind of shot the gun on him early. And then when Hangover came out, they didn't rerun it, which I thought was like the all-time no-brainer. Like, that's the week you want to rerun the Bradley Cooper.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We had him early.
Oh, that's interesting.
Show. But yeah, he was...
his whole thing, I think his monologue was like, you don't know who I am.
Yeah.
Thing. He was really funny.
He seemed he was about as excited as a host has ever been, I think.
Oh, he just couldn't believe it. He was just like...
You could feel it.
Yeah, Ham was the same way when he showed up. John Hamm was just like, I can't believe I'm here. But, you know what, to be honest, unless they're like Alec Baldwin and they've been there more than me.
Right.
They've hosted more times than I've actually done shows. Yeah, Steve Martin. You know, they're mostly just like, I can't believe I'm here. This is so cool.
Yeah, because it's like some sort of life... It's some sort of like career epiphany moment. It's like being you watch celebrities reach a certain point, and then when they've kind of hit big, they host SNL. It's part of the process. So when they host it, it's like, oh, this is a seminal moment for me, apparently. Yeah.
And especially someone like Bradley, I feel like, who just kind of like came in and was like, thanks for this opportunity. Like, like he was very aware that, you know, maybe everybody might not know who I am, and obviously, that's not the case now because Hangover was huge.
And he's banging babes. Look out, Hollywood. What else? So you got Shaun of the Dead. Wet
American Summer, which I really loved. And I really loved Foot Fist Way, Danny McBride movie directed by Jody Hill. I love that.
They're remaking that, right?
No, I don't think so.
You sure?
I'm pretty sure they wouldn't remake. It came out in theaters.
They're doing something with that's happening.
Really?
I can't remember, yeah.
That was one of those three movies were the movies of this decade that I saw, and then it was like, I couldn't wait. I just like couldn't wait to find my friends and say, did you see this? No, we're not doing that tonight. Come on, we gotta go over and see this movie. Come on, we gotta go see this.
Right.
They really, I was really excited. Anchorman was that way too. I remember seeing Anchorman and just being like, wow, this is so cool. We have just like a really big, just insanely silly movie,
I forgot to put The Hangover on this list, and it probably belongs there.
Yeah, The Hangover. Yeah,
that's a pretty big movie.
That was a big movie, yeah.
I can't remember getting more emails from, not that that's a big litmus test, but more people who emailed me to ask if I've seen it. Like, it had kind of reached that, and not just from friends, like from readers and...
Yeah.
It seemed, I don't know whether it was the time they released it or people were just ready for another kind of big goofy comedy or what was going on.
No, just like totally that story idea. I just remember seeing the trailer for it. I was with Akiva Schaffer and we watched the trailer for it and we both looked at each other. I'm like, that is going to make a ton of money. People are going to love that because it was just like, it was a really funny premise and it just kind of, and those guys just are all really good. It's like I like all three of those guys, so I was excited to see it.
All right, so I think Hangover's it's a nominee.
Yeah, and these are movies that are like at the end of the decade. This is what people are going to talk about.
We'll look back 5 years.
Yeah.
My question, because I think a big component of this in my rankings is the rewatchability. I want to know a year from now when Hangover's on, and I just watched it 2 weeks ago. Am I going to watch it again, or am I going to be like, ooh, this scene's coming up. I just want to stick around for a half hour. I
don't know. That's a tough one. It kind of just...
You don't know until it happens.
Depends. You don't know what happens. I could say Borat's really rewatchable. I could watch... Anytime Borat's on, I totally watch it. And Anchorman, too. If any of those movies are on, I can just sit... Like, it doesn't matter where I'm at it and just watch the whole thing.
Yeah. Sideways was like that for me for a while. Maybe...
Yeah. Sideways was my first... date movie with my wife.
Really?
Yeah. It wasn't our first date.
About a bitter divorce?
First time we went to go see a movie. I know. And we were like watching. I'm like, oh, this is about like crazy. Yeah. Bitterness. But
the thing with Sideways is it wasn't like. I guess it's more of a dramedy.
Yeah. It really is. It's more of like a really. Alexander Payne and Jim Taylor just write the best screenplays. Their scripts are so. The symbolism in their screenplays, and they're so tight and just so about, focus on character. My friend Nick Jasinovic, he directed this movie Paper Heart, Michael Cera was in.
Yeah.
He and I are working on a script, and we constantly talk about their movies, just like how, like Election. Like there's so much stuff in Election going on in that movie that I didn't pick up like on the third viewing, until you watch it and you go, oh yeah. And I remember I listened to the commentary track of Alexander Payne where he talks about trash. He's like, that's just a motif in the movie. There's always trash in the background.
Oh, that's interesting.
And if you watch the movie, there's always a dump truck driving by. There's trash, people picking up trash. The results, throwing away them, where he rigs it, has to do with trash. You know what I mean? And I was like, gosh, those guys are always working on another level that I just was not thinking of.
It's funny the difference between a director's commentary where the guy is actually explaining what things mean in the movies and the choices versus the guy who's like, Matt Damon's just an incredible actor. He's incredible in the scene. Like they're not saying anything. They're just... Tim
Burton's commentary tracks, it's just like nothing forever. And then he'll go, Johnny didn't want to do this day. I remember doing this. And then just silence. And listen, seriously, rent Sleepy Hollow and listen to the commentary track. It's just dead silence, and then he'll go, I remember this. And then another 15 minutes of silence. The best commentary track for me, I listen to those all the time. But my favorite one is Paul Thomas Anderson's Boogie Nights commentary track.
My favorite are Almost Famous and Boogie Nights.
Yeah, the Paul Thomas Anderson by himself talking about the movie, a 2.5-hour movie, and he never doesn't have anything to say, and it's all fascinating.
Yeah, and all like his choices and
right. It's just like, and it's not pretentious or there's some commentary tracks like for really like obscure movies that sometimes can kind of ruin it for you. I remember not ruin it for you, but you kind of like, I wish I didn't know that. Like, I remember listening to Donnie Darko commentary track. And I think Richard Kelly, I think that guy is really talented, but his commentary track for that movie is so kind of weird and he would kind of say, okay, now that the clock is there's a point where it just cuts to a clock striking midnight. He goes, now the movie's in a tangent universe. I go, wait, what? I didn't pick up on that. It wasn't didn't give me any insight. It was more kind of made me more confused. Yeah. And I was like, it'd be like if David Lynch was trying to describe what Eraserhead's about. You're like, no, and he's like so anti that. Like his DVDs don't have chapter headings because he believes that movies need to be viewed as one sitting, like one piece. You shouldn't be able to skip ahead to something.
That's so douchey.
Yeah.
See, here's my thing with commentary tracks. I like learning about the movie. I don't want the curtain to be open though. I don't want to look behind the curtain.
Yeah.
I want to still have the experience I had. Like, ooh, I wonder if that meant that. I don't want to actually find out the answers.
Yeah.
But I like knowing stuff like originally when we filmed this scene, we did this way.
Yeah.
And I realized, or, like even, I think it's really interesting when they do the director's commentary for the deleted scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Paul Thomas Anderson does that in Boogie Nights. And like one of my favorite scenes in that whole movie, he ended up cutting and he explains why in the thing, but it's this extended scene of Dirk Diggler winning the award when he just goes up and says thank you.
Yeah.
But in the deleted scene, they cut to each person's reaction celebrating. Mm-hmm. And it's just really cool. And it was perplexing why they didn't keep it. And he just was like, I love this part. And then he's like, it just was too long. They were just killing me on it being too long.
There's a scene in the script for Boogie Nights where Don Cheadle's character and his wife or girlfriend are actually trying to make love, but they're porn stars, and so it's this weird thing of like them they don't. It's like we do this for the camera. This is our job, and now we're actually trying to be intimate. And it was really weird.
Yeah.
And I saw this interview with him and Mike Figgis, where Mike Figgis is like, "Why'd you cut that? That's so great." And he was just like, "The movie didn't need it." Yeah. And that's kind of why, that's his genius, you know what I mean? Is just kind of like, a lot of times the scene that, I mean, it's the same thing with writing sketches not comparing sketch comedy to what Paul Thomas Anderson does, but the thing that made you want to do it in the first place or the thing you thought was so great is usually the thing that doesn't make it into the movie. Like we'll come up with a joke for a sketch and just say, this has got to go in. This is the whole reason we wrote it, and then you write the whole thing and go, actually, we don't need that anymore. This is all better, and he kind of says that in a way that like, this is one of the scenes I was really excited about. And then looked at the movie and just went, nope, don't need it.
That's probably the toughest thing. If you're creative, it's the toughest thing to figure out when to cut the fat and when not to.
Yeah.
I said it's my biggest issue. It's always been. I'm so much better at it than I used to be, but I'm still not. I'm sure like my stuff could be shorter. I mean, I like writing long stuff. It's part of what I'm trying to do. But at the same time, like I look back at some stuff I wrote in 2001, 2002, and I'm like, oh my God, I could have taken 900 words out of
Right.
this.
Do you do that now though in the long, like, you know,
I'm always
long
trying.
columns? You just like,
Totally.
There's a lot of stuff missing. Like your letter to Blake Griffin, which I love.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
emailed that around to a lot of people. I just being an OU fan, it was just I thought that was awesome. But that thing was really long, but it was great. But is there material from that column that do you hold on to that? Like maybe we'll use this later. Maybe
No,
I'll
you
use
know what
it
I
in a
do that
book
with
or
is
whatever.
mailbags.
Oh yeah, oh that's
Yeah.
smart. Yeah.
Because mailbags usually end up being like 6,000, 6,500, 7,000 words, something like that. But I'll write 10,000. Mm-hmm. So I write it long, and then I cut out the parts and try to make it so that it complements, that it doesn't drag in certain spots or whatever. So, but I have a whole process for it that I didn't have,
Yeah.
8 years ago. But I'm sure it's the same thing like when people make movies. Like I'm sure they want to film extra, and then like, all right, I'll figure it out after we film everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not
they
to
just
compare
go-
myself to a movie maker. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's better you always want to do more and then figure it out after.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing. Like, yeah, sometimes that happens where you just shoot a lot and then you see the movie and you go, oh wow, none of it made it into the cut, but
Yeah.
the movie is great. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, we didn't need that scene. We just, But then there's stuff like in Superbad. There's a whole scene in Superbad that Greg Mottola had me improvise twice. I felt almost for his enjoyment.
Yeah.
There's a scene at the bar with McLovin where you can almost see where the improv starts.
Right.
Because the line's supposed to be like, where'd you think I met my wife? A bar. That was the line. And you see Rogan go, it was this bar, wasn't it? And I go, it was this bar. And so that's him kind of egging me on like, hey, Bill, tell more of the story, And so Greg really liked that. I was like, no, dude, just tell, because we were shooting video, so we could just do these long takes, forever. And Greg would just shout out, yeah, just say it again. And he's a great director for that. He kind of just watches you. It's kind of the way I hear like Mike Nichols was, where he just doesn't say much. Just kind of like, and he'll tell you a story or something, and the directions in the story,
Paul Thomas Anderson did that, I think, with Boogie Nights. Like those
real
guys
quiet.
improvised
Yeah.
some of the pool stuff, I think. They just kept the camera rolling.
Yeah, it's just like, just keep it going. And once you feel kind of comfortable, you forget that you're acting and you kind of, but that whole story about my wife and Superbad, meeting my wife and all that, was all just a big improv at the end of like 2 takes. And then, and it was kind of a feeling of like, oh, that was fun. That won't end up in the movie, And then, I went to my first screening of it in Westwood, and the whole thing was in there. And I just, as an actor, that must
be
it was
so
so
exciting.
nice. I just couldn't. It was a little like Easter egg to the whole experience, because I was so just enjoying the movie as just as a moviegoer. Like, wow, this is really funny and.
Yeah, that must be so cool to see a movie that you worked on and have no idea what takes they kept.
Oh, that's how it always is. You never. It's weird. You go in for
Heart must be
ADR.
pounding, right?
Oh well, you go in for ADR, and that's when you kind of see like, oh, that you go in for ADR, and that's kind of when you'll see. Oh,
Explain
they cut
what
that
ADR
back.
is.
That's basically when you shoot a movie. A lot of times the sound doesn't work, and so what they bring you in months and months and months later, and you go into a sound studio and you have the movie cut in front of you, and you dub over, because there might like and Superbad is a sequence at the end where I wreck the car. There's we need some screams in here, so you watch it and you see my mouth go where I had to scream, but it was too loud, so I go and I And you could, and when you watch, especially older movies, you can tell where the ADR comes in, or where they dub over like someone's line. You could totally tell they're not saying what they're actually saying, because,
especially in the 80s, there's some bad ones.
Total
They've
bad
gotten
ones.
better
The
with it
ones.
now.
They have gotten better with it. You could still kind of tell where it is. You're like, oh, that's an ADR line, but it's where like suddenly their voice becomes really crisp for like 2 sentences. It's like, guys, I think maybe we should go to the diner, and then maybe what I mean?
Right. I think that's been the biggest trend this decade, and I'm not sure who started it or when it became really popular, but the comedy directors letting people ad-lib. I don't remember that happening before this decade.
Yeah.
As frequently.
Yeah, Judd really was a proponent of that, but Adam McKay is also Adam McKay is a big proponent of that. You could tell.
Did Sandler's movies do that? I wonder. I feel like
maybe
those
like
are
in
scripted.
little bits, but yeah, they seem pretty scripted. I don't know, but yeah, they do seem like pretty scripted. In this decade, you definitely saw more stuff where like the camera is just locked off, and you could tell people are just like totally just going for it, riffing.
I wonder how.
And there's a lot of back and forth, especially in those McKay Farrell movies.
Yeah,
that's why I love them so much. I was just watching Step Brothers the other night, and the whole scene at the dinner table with the family, the first time they're hanging out, you know, and you just tell. And I know this from I've never worked with Adam McKay, but friends of mine who have worked with him say, you know, he'll just yell out lines from behind the camera. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, or, you know, like an anchor man, you know, whatever, you know, have fun on, you know, on Whore Island or whatever, you know what I mean? Like all those things where it's just like, and Seth Rogen would say that a lot. Like on Superbad, I remember my very first scene on that movie was the scene, our first time you see us, we're in the liquor store. And I wasn't really prepared to how much we were allowed to mess around. You know what I mean? And he said, like, you know, my whole feeling on this is like we write a script, we work really hard on it, we make it, you know, as funny and as structurally sound as we possibly can. But on set, we will always come up with something funnier than what me and my writing partner come up with in a room. Right. We'll always try to come up with something funnier. And so that's what Judd, you know, and those guys do, which is just like keep it loose and
Curb Your Enthusiasm does that too, though, don't they?
Oh, totally. I think Curb Your Enthusiasm, I don't know 100%, but it seems to me like that's almost like an outline. Like you come in and Larry doesn't like, you know, that, and then they just
we're going to get coffee and
we're going to get coffee and then yeah.
So maybe he had something to do with that too. And I also think like the DVD deleted scenes. You know, in the old days, you shot a movie and people just saw the movie.
Yeah.
Now it's like not a bad thing to have 45 minutes.
Or they can put that back into the movie and they can put unrated. I remember, yeah.
Hater shows his balls.
Yeah, you get to see Hater balls. It's like, I don't even remember showing my balls. Those aren't my balls.
Those are CGI'd balls.
Why did they put CGI balls in the movie?
I got to tell you something. I did an episode of Main Street, the web series we have on ESPN. It's not coming out for a while, but in 6 hours, I totally understood like the seduction of acting and what an awesome life that is. I don't want to give anything away, but we did like an outdoor shoot, and you know we filmed multiple scenes and we ad-libbed the scene. And I'm a terrible actor. I'm not gonna, you know, whatever, but it's so much fun. What a great job.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, guys. All right, we're going to, you got a half hour, and then come back, and you can mess around and try out different takes of stuff. And
yeah.
I mean, it's just like, I can't believe that that's an actual job for people. I can totally understand why people do drugs and go crazy. Like, they just got to just constantly be like, oh, my God, this is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what you're doing. Like, you know, I mean, you know, when you're doing comedies, you know, it's always I mean the whole idea is like to try to keep it light and to have fun. And you know, on Paul it was interesting because there's, you know, gunfights in the movie and car chases and stuff, so it's pretty cool. There's a midnight run element to Paul. You'll dig it. You'll like it.
I'm sure like filming the pinball machine scene from The Accused for like the 7th straight day maybe not as fun.
Yeah. Well, you hear like story, yeah.
But comedies, I think, would be just like if you're working on Anchorman for 6 months or 4 months, whatever. Yeah. What's more? I just can't imagine. I can totally see why people start doing.
Well, you watch
things.
like those deleted scenes at the end of Anchorman. They just look like they're having like the most fun ever, you know. And it is true. It's all genuine. You're kind of just there, and you know, the best is when and it's the same thing on SNL is when you feel like you have a real ensemble. I feel like that's something that this decade had in movies. It was like this real kind of the feeling of like the ensemble. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Will Ferrell would be like the main guy in a movie, but he always had like tons of funny people with him. It was like more of like in that, like the way Sandler was doing that, you know, in the 90s. It wasn't like they weren't doing the 90s, but this one, it seemed like, especially with the Judd movies and and stuff like Old School and the Todd Phillips stuff. I feel like they definitely were trying to do that more.
Yeah, in the 90s, I don't feel like people were making supporting appearances in like a Sandler movie or something and then propelling them to something else.
Yeah, where you could kind of... I would have no work in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, now it's like, you go do Year One, like, you do that movie, and it's like, that whole movie is just the whole, just everybody's in that movie. We all got a phone, hey, come on down to, Louisiana for 3 days and shoot a scene. And you're like, yeah, because it's fun, and it's like, oh my God, Harold Ramis, like, this is a great time.
Yeah, in the 90s, you'd have been like, your agent would have been like, Bill, good news, second callback for caddy number 3 in Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that would have been totally what I've been doing.
It was a drought. It really was.
Well, it's like, you know what it is? I like those Sandler movies, but
but that's really all that was out there, though.
Yeah.
I'm trying to rack. I guess the 2 Farley movies.
Yeah, the Farley
Dirty
Brothers.
Work.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were others, but it just didn't seem like there were that many comedies coming out.
Yeah.
Sandler almost had a monopoly.
Yeah.
For like 4. Oh, and the Mike Myers movies, but those only came out like every couple of years.
Yeah, but Mike Myers movies is a good example, and the Jim Carrey movies were a good example of someone that was almost like that when like they are like insanely funny and they are the funniest thing in the movie. You know what I mean? Not in any sort of ego way, but it's just like that's the way those movies were. It's like watching like a Jerry Lewis movie, or you know what I mean? Like that's just that kind of movie. And it seemed like in this decade they were more like, no, yeah, Will Ferrell is a star, or or Seth Rogen's a star, or whatever. But we want to just fill it out. It's almost like how Preston Sturges, was in the 40s, or more like how like Caddyshack was, or like Animal House. Like Caddyshack, anytime it cut to a new scene, you're like, oh God, I love this guy. Oh my God, I love this guy too. Oh my God, you know what I mean? Like it was like all your favorite comedians were in one big movie. And
you know what else happened in the 90s? There was a lot of nostalgic casting.
Mm-hmm.
There's like, his trainer will be Carl Weathers.
Right, yeah.
His number 2 will be Robert Wagner.
Yeah, right.
And now I think those parts would go to
like
people in the comedy group.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, but that might have been a sign too of like the Tarantino thing, like where Tarantino would bring people back, from the 70s into movies, and then it was just like that became like a thing. You know what I mean?
You're right.
Where it's just suddenly it was like, oh, we're gonna bring. Yeah, remember this guy? Remember from my childhood? Yeah, we should get him in the movie. We also, I don't know.
Naked Gun did that with Ricardo Montalban.
Well, Airplane's the best version of that ever, where it's just like everybody. Yeah. Everybody is a dramatic actor in those movies. I mean, that's why that movie is so funny.
Yeah, that movie's turned 30 years old this summer, which I was shocked by, and it's still funny.
It's still like one of the funniest movies of all time.
Blues Brothers is now a little long.
Oh, really?
I still love it, but it could definitely use about a 20-minute trim at this point.
You know what movie I was watching, and it's still one of my favorite movies, and I understand it, but it felt long, with Stripes. Where Stripes, you feel like the end of that is when the graduation ceremony. You're like, oh, this is the end of the movie. And
Last
then it's
20 minutes is bad.
And then you have to show it's not necessarily bad. It's just like, wow, we're really going for this. It's like Lord of the Rings. Yeah. It's like the actual book Lord of the Rings, where it's like you see them learn something, but now you have to see them actually put it in, into use.
It's a dramatic turn from. Yeah. I own it on DVD. It's one of my favorites, but. As soon as they have the missile and all that, you're like, all right.
Yeah, when they get them out and everything, you're like, yeah, this is now an action movie and it's okay. But all the stuff that you remember from that movie is in the training stuff.
Yeah, there was a habit in that era of the first 20 minutes were always the greatest part of the movie.
Yeah,
I don't know why. Caddyshack somehow never the whole way through, but
even Caddyshack is interesting when you watch it. It has like a dramatic story in it with like. The girl being pregnant and all that stuff.
That she's dancing in the
she's dancing on the green, going, those movies still have that. I mean, the thing that I feel like Judd did that was really interesting was kind of take all that and then really ground the humor in something, and the way he kind of does movies where you. I had one scene in Knocked Up, and this is when I kind of realized his style, which was like, okay, let's do the scene now. It was me and Katherine Heigl. I was her editor at E. And and she goes, "Oh, let's do the scene now where Bill, you have a crush on her." And you would just kind of just totally improvise it, but it was like me having a crush on her. Okay, now let's do it where you guys hate each other. You really hate each other. So then you would do it, the whole thing, hate you. And now let's do it where you guys are kind of mutual friends. You know, you have no crush on her or whatever. You guys are just friends. And you do the whole scene, and it would be 100% different from every, you'd say different lines, but the basic thing would come out where she would get sick, and I would go, I think maybe you're pregnant or whatever.
Kenny Mayne and I did not try that. When we filmed that scene. We did it one way.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. Like, Judd, like, he kind of likes to get in the editing room and see, like, ooh, I can take that moment from when he has a crush on her, and then pair it with this moment where they are mutual friends, and then the end will be the thing where they hate each other, because I had a great moment in that, where he really likes to kind of, you know,
I gotta say,
put it together
I
in that way. You know?
When I worked on Jimmy's show, I loved editing pieces. Because it really reminded, it was like in the same phylum as writing a column, and it's like, ooh, try that. Oh, let me see that one again. Ooh, well, maybe let's pair it. You know, it's like your brain.
Something comes to life that you weren't even
it was
thinking
awesome.
It would work.
I loved it. You'd be in there for like eight hours editing a 4-minute piece, and it would just fly by. I always enjoyed it. It depends on the editor, I guess, is a big part of it.
Akiva Schaffer is like amazing. I love like when they're shooting a digital short, if I'm involved with a digital short, and we'll shoot all this stuff. I mean, and the fact that he does it usually in a 24-hour, like less than 24-hour, like time span, you know, is mind-boggling when you really think about all those digital shorts are kind of done like, you know, in 24 hours. There's one that we did, Dear Sister is what it eventually was called online, where we're all shooting each other. That was like one of those things where we were shooting it and like no one was really laughing. Because there was no jokes, and it was like, all right, Bill, so you shoot this way, you know. And
was that the OC parody?
Yeah,
yeah, I like
and
that.
And so we were like, okay, you do this, now you're angry, okay, yeah, and oh, that was fun, yeah, I don't know. And then when I saw it, the way he had cut it together, it just, I lost it. It was like one of my favorite things ever. But you couldn't, you know. And he does that like when we do Laser Cats, we have tons of bits in it, and it's kind of real quick and free flowing. Yeah, no, I got it. Okay, cool. When Akiva goes, yep, we got it, and we move on, and then he'll make it way better than I ever would expect.
Yeah, you need some sort of supernatural recall when you're in the editing room, and you see like something like, didn't we do like right around here? I remember there's this one moment, and
you hear about that like guys like Paul Thomas Anderson. Also, the guy I hear about that from Simon and Nick is Edgar Wright, who directed Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead, who's, you know, amazing, and they said he has like just a recall that he can recall an insert shot that they did 4 months ago. No, we got that insert of you picking up the phone, and it was like, when? You know what I mean? They can't even remember, like, you know, like, no, I remember that shot. You know
who else was like that? Sly Stallone in Rocky IV.
Totally.
Where's it? There was a faraway shot on the mountain.
No. I remember when we did the close-up of the Adrian's feet, the slippers. Those weren't the slippers you were wearing 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. I think he totally had the recall.
Do you want to tell the story about how Tom Cruise healed your friendship with Cousin Sal, or not?
That is the most amazing. I told you that. I was shooting Paul, and just because I traveled so much from New York to Albuquerque, and then it was like a Hortwick used to go through Dallas, and you have a 3-hour layover in Dallas, and you go Dallas to Albuquerque, and it sucks. And so I just listened to your podcast, like I just had them all, and I must have listened to Jeff Ross story, like, you know, 3 or 4 times, like that whole podcast, just leading up to that story. I just found that story so fascinating. The way he tells it with so much suspense, where I'm sitting in like a airplane, just like leaning forward, just with my hands clasped, like, what's about to happen? Like, he is such a good storyteller.
It was so weighty.
Oh,
for like how stupid it was.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to cut a new intro for that and just make it its own podcast.
That
it's 25
story,
minutes. It could be its own podcast.
That is like, I mean, that is such a crazy, fascinating story.
I also should do a director's commentary of Jimmy Kimmel listening to that story and belittling each false fact He went crazy. He sent like a 1,200 word email.
Really?
Oh, yeah, I'm not kidding. It was like 1,200 words, refuting point by point all the things in the Jeff Ross monologue. He had a show in 4 hours.
He's like, forget about it. No, that's funny. Regardless, I don't want to read that email. That thing was amazing.
So, all right. So for the SGs. Sideways, Anchorman, Superbad, Wedding Crashers, Old School, Borat, 40-Year-Old Virgin, Hangover. I think those are going to be the 8 nominees.
Okay.
Unless you want it. Do you feel strongly about Wet Hot American Summer?
I feel more of the 3 that I mentioned, or which are my own personal things. More. I mean, I think Wet Hot American Summer and Foot Fist Way are amazing. Those are probably my 2 favorite comedies of the decade. But they're not culture for what you're asking for. They're not culture. But I think Shaun of the Dead was a movie that a lot of people talk for outside of my circle. Like, I would go visit my sister, and they would be like, they would own Shaun of the Dead. You know what I mean? Like, that was a movie that was
I'm
on.
gonna throw it in there.
I like Shaun of the Dead. I might be 100%
need an underground
wrong.
cool one.
If you're gonna go, I would say Shaun of the Dead. Yeah.
All right.
I want more people. I mean, but people should take a second look at Wet Hot American Summer. Wet Hot American Summer, to be totally honest, is something now. It's like shorthand with people, like, kind of in the comedy world, like when they're doing a movie where they're like, oh, we're gonna do a more grounded kind of thing, or we might go totally Wet Hot American Summer with it and just make it crazy.
Do you like Party Down?
I do like that show, yeah. I like Adam Scott. I think he's great.
He's really good.
He's really good. He was great on Eastbound and Down and as the brother.
You know what's funny? When I worked at Jimmy's show, he was engaged to one of the assistants.
Oh, really?
And it was like, yeah, this is Adam. He's a struggling actor. It was basically, it's like, oh, yeah, nice guy. Hope he makes it, and then...
He's working with Scorsese.
Yeah, a couple years later, it's like, yeah, remember that guy Adam? He's in The Aviator.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he was
now he's like
one of the best things in The Aviator. I remember.
And then he was on that HBO show where everybody had sex every episode.
Oh, right, yeah.
That was a little weird.
He's a good guy. He's like really good friends with Paul Rudd.
Oh, is he?
Amazing.
Well, that Party Down show, it's a little hit or miss. When it hits, though,
it's great.
Like, they had an episode about they catered a porn party. It was one of the best 30 minutes of the year.
Oh, I didn't see that one. I got to see it.
It was just this grisly, porn movie rap party, and it was awesome.
Lizzie Kaplan is really good, and Martin Starr. Yeah, they're all
right.
Great.
So at gunpoint, I'd have to narrow this list down, I think, to 3.
Well, I'm a weird.
Anchorman.
It's hard for me to talk about stuff that I was involved in, so I can't.
I don't care if it's hard for you to talk about.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. I'm saying.
I'm going personal.
This is why I'm doing the omnipotent.
All right.
I'm making decisions for you. You have no say.
I won't say anything.
No, I mean, you're saying you can't. Nobody can be like, man, I can't believe you agreed with Simmons.
Comedy. I would say Anchorman.
Anchorman, Borat, and it's got to be one Apatow. I think it's the top 3. I
mean, 40-Year-Old Virgin was the one, though, that when it came out, I mean, that poster started a whole thing now where everybody did their poster that way. Everybody started doing the From the Guy Who Brought You thing. I mean, that movie kind of started that whole thing. And that poster is the funny. That is the best movie poster I remember ever seeing. I remember just seeing that poster going, that is brilliant.
Rewatchability, I think it's between... See, Borat's not rewatchable to me anymore. I don't know if I'd effed it out too many times. Yeah, I'd know. Well,
that thing was also. It's so hard when something just like that just is such a part of the culture that your uncle's going, my wife, and and it just becomes like such a crazy part of the culture.
It became almost uncool because the wrong people were doing quotes from it.
Yeah, I mean, everything happened. I mean, anything that you kind of are like, this is mine, That's probably why I like Wet Hot American Summer and Foot Fist Way so much, because I still feel like those are mine.
Baby.
Those are mine. Those are the things like I know.
Well, Anchorman's weird because it went mainstream a little. But it's also a little bit culty.
It's totally culty, that movie.
Like, my mom wouldn't watch. My mom wouldn't know anything about Anchorman.
It means a whale's vagina.
I did like in 2006, I did an NBA free agency column with Anchorman quotes. And at that point, I didn't realize that many people liked it because, it did well in the movie theaters. It wasn't a phenomenon or anything.
No. But
and then it started showing up on cable, or maybe I got a DVD. I can't remember. And And I was just, I must have watched it like 4 times in 2 weeks.
The rewatchability on that movie is really
I
big.
get excited.
I think
when
of the whole list, Anchorman's the most rewatchable.
I think that might be my pick.
Yeah, Anchorman has the most rewatchability.
It hits the most elements. It's rewatchable. Yeah. It's really funny. It was cool at the time. It stars one of the big guns.
Yeah.
And Apatow's indirectly involved. I mean, he produced it.
I think he was pretty bigly involved. I mean, I think he was big involved in like helping them with the script and working. I mean, from what I've heard and stuff, I think he was pretty involved with it. You know, he was like a real like producer on it. It wasn't one of those things where like, I'll put my name on it or whatever.
It's got a good commentary.
Yeah. The commentary to Wake Up Ron Burgundy's hilarious. Like Adam McCabe plays a really funny character.
Forgot to mention when we were talking commentaries, the funniest one ever is the Conan 2.
Oh, is it Richard?
It's Schwarzenegger doing it with the director. It's either 2 or 3, whatever the one that Schwarzenegger did was the director. It's awesome. Like you feel like it's not actually Arnold, that's somebody doing an impression of him.
Hold my breath for so long.
Look at her, what a beautiful lady. Like
Look at Grace Jones.
Yeah, that's really funny. I haven't seen that movie in forever, the second one.
Well, if you see it with the director commentary. So your movie comes out, this is running on Friday, September 11th.
And so, a week.
The movie comes out September 11th, right?
No, it comes out in a week. It comes out on the 8th.
The Hollywood premieres this weekend.
Yeah, and then the 18th is when the movie actually comes out.
Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Yeah.
It's going to be big.
It's going to be huge. Maybe. On the lead. It might be big.
Do you want to do just a tad of James Gunn before we go, or no? James Gunn's movie review.
It was pretty good. I liked it. Made me hungry. It was pretty, was it that big, great, fat movie?
With meatballs.
Meatballs. I like meatballs.
But yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, news breaks that there's a James Gunn prequel that they're making.
Yeah.
The script is done. It's in development. Are you excited or are you frightened?
I'm not, no, I'm frightened. Anytime they do anything like that was great and it was over 10 years ago and they try to revisit it, I don't think it's ever worked.
Yeah.
Like I hear about the new, anytime I hear like, talking about the new Ghostbusters movie and stuff like that, and I got excited and I go, well, maybe, I don't know. You know what I mean? It feels like it needs to be kind of like in a 5. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's an interesting thing to think about.
Has there ever been a good prequel?
No, I mean,
you're a Star Wars guy. Did you like the prequel stuff?
No. I went to midnight screenings of all 3 of those movies and walked out going like, what? No. You know, it was like that thing where you're trying to it was like a girl slowly breaking up with you. You just couldn't get okay, cool, all right, yeah, okay, that was all right. Okay, cool. No, she just got up and left. I don't know what's going on, but we're still dating. We're totally, you know what I mean? Like, just totally in denial until the 3rd movie, and then I was like, no, you hate me.
I only had that happen to me with Godfather 3.
Yeah.
I left the theater. My stepdad was like, he was doing the same thing. Like, it was all right. It was good.
Yeah.
Like we were trying to, and then finally we were like,
so bad.
Oh yeah, she kind of.
It was just such a bummer. Those movies. I mean, there's literally, the part in the 3rd movie. It took me all the way up. I mean, it wasn't like I was saying the first 2 prequels were good. I was just like, yeah. Like, people bag on them, I would just kind of go, yeah. It was like someone bagging on, like your dad. You're just like, yeah. And you're just like, it's not cool. I love my dad. Don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, I love those original movies so much. So I was just kind of like, yeah, what was he thinking? All
right, last thing. You want to talk baseball really quick?
What, you want to talk about the Cubs?
Well,
I don't want to talk about the Cubs.
You're making noise about potentially just switching teams.
I'm not I've never had an American league team really, and I this year I watched the Sox, and I enjoyed it. But now what are your feelings about not just the Red Sox but just baseball in general? We talked about this a little bit last night.
I'm getting upset at baseball at the length of the games.
Yeah,
it's becoming. I don't know whether I'm older or whether I've just had it, but we're entering a crisis mode.
Yeah. It is ridiculously
Nothing should
long.
take 4 hours. Nothing. No movie. No sporting
Nothing.
event.
Yeah.
I can't. A wedding. Maybe a wedding reception can go 4 hours.
But now you have TiVo, and it's even this thing though that like I TiVo'd the second game, the one that went 15 innings with the Yankees was like and I TiVo'd that, and it was this thing where I was watching it and I was really excited, and then I just last 3 innings I just TiVo'd through the whole thing. I was like, I have to go to bed. It is like late. What are we doing?
I wonder. I mean, my friend Matt Bourne, who works for Major League Baseball, and I was saying how I didn't think they were going to get the next generation because none of these people can stay up late and watch these games, especially in October. And his point was, well, they're still coming in the park.
Yeah.
You can still TiVo the games. If there's Game 6 of the World Series, it's much easier to see it nowadays than it was when we were kids.
Yeah.
If you fell asleep during the 1978 World Series, it was gone.
Yeah, that's it.
So
no, that's true. I mean,
whatever.
That's true.
I mean, I guess that's
true. To me,
true,
baseball is still it's the best when you go to a game. Like I think that's like when I get excited about baseball.
Football's the opposite.
Yeah.
You go to a football game and you're like, how do I get out of this? Pro football.
I mean, going to an OU game is awesome. It was pretty heartbreaking last week.
So you're OU across the board.
Yeah, OU, and I enjoy watching OSU as well. My mom went to OU, my dad went to OSU, so growing up I was kind of
really.
I
didn't know that.
They totally.
That's a little awkward.
Especially during football season and.
But OU's much better than OSU.
Well, when I was a kid, OSU because of like Barry Sanders and stuff like that. That was kind of that was the biggest thing. Actually, there was a while where they had Barry Sanders, and then in basketball we had Big Country, and so I was just I was just kind of all OSU for a while. I would just wear OSU colors. I was just that was it.
What a great school for a Big Country to go to. You just couldn't have picked a better school.
Well, I guess it's going to be that one. But the college football games are a blast.
I agree.
I mean, going to see OU and Texas play is kind of like one of the best. I mean, you'll see grown men throw beer at each other. I mean, it's crazy.
The difference between a college football and a pro football game in person almost can't be calculated.
No.
It's like two completely different universes.
I went to my first pro game actually last year with Paul Rudd. We went to the Jets Broncos when it just poured freezing rain on us with me and Rudd and Will Forte and Rudd's brother-in-law Bill, and it was so that was kind of a hard one to do because we were sitting there and we were just getting soaked, and then it was like, all right, let's go. There was a moment though where I honestly thought we were going to get stampeded because it was raining, and at the half we all were like try to go and switch to some other seats, and it was like Paul and I legitimately got fearful for our lives. We thought we were going to get crushed.
I can honestly say that I have not had a really superb time in the stadium for an actual NFL game probably since somewhere in the 80s.
Really?
I mean, I like the whole tailgate part. I think it's really fun. But when I'm there, you never know. It's like, did he get the first down? What just happened? And there's TV timeouts.
That's what I was telling my wife. We saw a big fan. Did you see the?
No, I'm dying to see.
It's amazing. The best. That to me right now is the best movie I've seen all year. That and Anvil, the story of Anvil. Those are my two favorite movies of this year so far. But big fan. That there's a whole thing with them tailgating, and then and then the kind of reveal is that they watched the whole game out in the parking lot, And my wife went, oh, and I was like, no, that's the way to see it.
Yeah, seriously.
That's the way to watch it. I was like, going into the stadium, it gets a little hairy. I have no interest. That is true. I kind of don't. Hank Azaria, we tried to get him to go to the Jets game, and he's a big football fan, and he was like, no, you guys have fun. And then afterwards, he just texts. He's like, that's why I don't go. It's just stuff like that,
I'd much rather watch 8 games at once than one game.
Yeah, you rather without a doubt. That's the best thing about football, and I feel like there's more football fans I'm finding in my friends is that we have Sunday, we have Monday, and that's it.
Having your own team doesn't matter as much in football as it does in the other sports because you also have your fantasy teams, you have gambling. It's more about it's the only sport in baseball you wouldn't be like, D-backs Dodgers at 1.
Yeah.
And then Royals Twins at 4.
Yeah,
like, you would
why?
never watch games.
He'll go, we can do that tomorrow or the next day. We can do the same thing tomorrow. It's like going to see a movie in the theater for 3 days, like a limited run for 3 days.
Yeah.
Like, we can go see it tomorrow if you want.
We're taping this on a Thursday, and the Steelers game's about 4 hours away. I'm giddy. I woke up early today. I couldn't fall back asleep. I'm not even kidding. I woke up at 5:30.
That's pretty cool.
And I was like, football.
Yeah, I always do. Do you do this too at the beginning of seasons? You get really stoked, and then
there's a letdown.
And then there's a letdown?
Yeah.
Do you do that like baseball, football, basketball? You do it
It's
all
usually
the
midway through the third quarter of the first game. I've hyped it up so much. It's like I need to go take a walk. Like, it meant too much. It's like, oh yeah, there's parts of football that are boring. I forgot.
Yeah.
I get so excited. Yeah. Putting in the fantasy teams, putting in the first bet. Just great.
Yeah, football is way more just, I like this, just kind of everything that comes with football, the season, the fans, like just like the whole, but college football too. I mean, that's a funny thing. Like, I'm the same with basketball. Like, I'm equal level with college and pro. Like, March comes around. March is kind of like when I become like actually like a full-on true sports fan. Like, where my wife's like, geez, what have you become for like a month? What happened to you for a month? Why do we have all these TVs in the living room all of a sudden and the radio playing? You
lucked out though, because you parents with strong college sports alma maters.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it wasn't like my mom was like, but it has to be OU, but yeah, it was more kind of a fun thing just to have, when they played each other, or like whoever OU was playing, whoever OSU was playing, we have 2 TVs in the living room and have people over and watch,
I went to a college that basically systematically destroyed its sports programs.
I went
to Holy Cross, and when I went there, we were like one of the best Div 1A colleges, and it was a big part of the school, and now not as much, but anyway. All right, so Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Yeah.
September 18th.
Yep.
SNL, September 26th.
Megan Fox, you too. And actually, and then the day before Cloudy comes out, September 17th, is our first Thursday night show.
And Adventureland, available on Netflix.
Go see Adventureland.
It's good.
It is good.
It's good. I haven't seen it, but I know I'm going to like it.
Thanks, man.
Till later. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.